So good afternoon. Yeah. So we discussed the previous class about our short noise. Sorry, what is that? Johnson noise, right? So if we just scroll back a couple of slides earlier, so we wanted to analyze this noise in the photo detector and what sort of noise is there. So this is a real practical experimental results obtained by a photo detector with certain intense laser light. And then if you just analyze this fluctuations, current fluctuations, that is actually noise. And that noise, if you just whatever current you are drawing through a load resistance, convert into time dependent power. You just take mean square and then multiply RL, that is actually so-called your noise. And then we can see this noise, time dependent noise, Fourier transform. Then we get this type of characteristics. And we try to find what is the source, what are the sources of this type of noise. Okay, so because the noise source is one thing is that photoelectron generation, and then this photoelectron should be generating some current and you can get this thing. So ultimately this thing is very important as we are interested to have our so-called quantum detection, photonic detection. We actually all this thing we started with a understanding that I think I wanted to show you on that slide. Yeah, this slide. If you see this equation number 316, that this is the to detect the quantum nature of photon, then the variance in electron generation for any detector, right? So that depends, that is actually expressed in this form. And we know if eta equal to 1, eta is the quantum efficiency, so-called quantum efficiency of the detector. If average number of incoming photon is n bar, and then generated electron or photo electron generated capital N bar, then that is actually the efficiency. If that is 1, then you can get from this equation if eta equal to 1, that means n bar equal to n, right? So in that case, eta 1 means second term will be 0, and then you get actually delta n equal to capital N equal to small delta small n. So that means eta square equal to 1. So this is the situation. Actually, you can say that the photon count fluctuation faithfully reproduce the fluctuations of the incident photon stream. So that means if you have delta n is the variance, right? That standard deviation of incoming photon. So that will be completely reproduced in your current or photoelectron generation. If it is Poissonian, then it will be Poissonian current will be there. If it is sub-Poissonian, delta n normally it can be less than square root of n bar, right? So in that case, it will be sub-Poissonian. Then also it will be delta n. So eta high efficiency is always good. Good to reproduce the things. Otherwise, normally that is not ideal situation. So If we go to another extreme situation, when eta is much lower than 1, then you get delta n equal to, so less than 1 means you are getting this thing, right? You can actually, this term actually again you can ignore, and then delta n will be just eta delta n. That is actually n bar. So that means you are getting delta n equal to capital N equal to n bar. So that is the distribution, photoelectron distribution, which will be Poissonian. Poissonian distribution. It will not respect what is your source. If eta is much lower, source may be sub-Poissonian, but you will be ultimately ending up with a Poissonian distribution. Okay, so that is the problem. So higher efficiency is always good. If higher efficiency, since it is very difficult, so our intention is that to get a source, sub-Poissonian source, and we have mentioned that sub-Poissonian source, it is very, it's possible to generate, but this detection, if eta is not very large, then problem. Okay, so to understand that, we have discussed the different type of photo detection, not different type of photo detection. So for example, if we want to detect a single photon, what sort of problem can come in the detection system? Starting from the, we have discussed about quantum efficiency, then jitter, and then also dead time, dark count, all these we have discussed. And on the top of it, if we just try to go for this so-called experimental results, directly, normally well-known photo detector or any photo detector, can be photodiode, all these if we use, then I think practically what we supposed to get, what we supposed to read, and that type of, if some type of noise is there, so that noise you have to quantify and you have to minimize, then only you will be able to reproduce your, there is a possibility that you can reproduce your whatever small signal comes, even single photon comes, you can get as a signal, because noise can be noise if it is eliminated. So in that sense, we discussed about that one more term we have added, that if it is a some photon streams comes as a flux, and then the current is proportional to photon number, when eta is the efficiency, arbitrary you can consider, even larger is better, we'll show that, and we have shown already. And then responsivity, we have defined that current part, this thing. And then this is the arrangement, the typical arrangement of photo detection, and you get this thing, and then how the AC component and noise you can find, and then you get these results, right? And to analyze this initial part, this for a smaller frequency you get a lot of noise, very high noise. So that thing we could discuss by using the thought experiment of Johnson and later on by Nyquist, and we could quantify that that Johnson noise voltage V square, that is actually power, proportional to power it will be, and according to this one. And if you ignore this frequency related things, it is most of the time you can consider this is something constant, but that is depends on temperature and resistance, of course, whatever resistance you are using for measurement. Okay, so this is your somewhat we calculated the Johnson noise, and that actually depends on 1 by f square, it is there, and this is the gain, and you have to integrate, then you can get. But for a particular band, you can just integrate over that particular band what is the noise is there. So if you just try to go back to that graph again, so we say that this is a classical noise. So as a function of frequency, that expression also shows that it will be reducing. Noise will be reducing as frequency is very high. And then for a certain very large frequency, it will be, it's supposed to reduce, but ultimately what we see that it is saturating somewhere. Okay. So that saturation thing is that that part actually we should have some other type of sources, not like this temperature, thermal agitation, current, whatever the Johnson's way of discussion. And another type of, I think other day, I think one of you were asking that is this the 1 by f noise, right? So this is actually really it is called Johnson noise, this type of parabolic nature, because it is square root f square is there. But 1 by f noise, normally it is actually for very low frequency. Typically it is less than 100 kilohertz frequency. That there actually it is more or less like a straight line, it will be coming as a function of frequency that will be dropping very fast, just 1 by 1 over f type of things. And that comes because of the, if your laser normally if it is a free running laser with mirrors are there, and mirrors vibration and their thermal mechanical fluctuations, all those type of things that contribute certain kind of um, uh, noise, and that is very low frequency noise because it is just mechanical vibration, all those contributes, and that is called flicker noise, 1 by f noise or flicker noise. And sometimes it is also observed in the detection system also, because of the it is not like simple electron hole pair generation. Sometimes some additional defects, surface states, etc., that also contribute some kind of current, photocurrent, and that photocurrent also will have a very low frequency emission, photoelectron emission, and that will be also 1 by f. Apart from that, I think if you just see any typical photodiode in semiconductor device, solid state device book, semiconductor device book, then they have another type of noise that is also just after 1 by f noise. There is an and in between this Johnson noise and 1 by f noise, in between that comes that is called electron hole generation, uh, uh, electron hole pair generation. Because of that, that is what I told earlier, but that also contributes some frequency dependent loss. It is almost similar to whatever we discussed in the Johnson noise. Johnson noise is the thermal fluctuations we have explained, but there you will get also very low frequency electron hole pair generation that can be not regular, that all the electron hole pair will not be generated regularly. Because of that it can come also.
Electron
So
hole pair
that is
generation is because of the thermal noise, is it?
actually because of the thermal.
Okay.
Of course, that is thermal, and this temperature dependencies will be there, as well as frequency dependencies will be there.
Right.
But that is just below Johnson noise. That's a lower frequency range. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And then this Johnson noise comes, and because we are operating most of the time this device to reduce this classical noise, you can just operate at a lower temperature, then you can somewhat reduce this classical noise or Johnson noise or flickering noise. I think those things can be cancelled. We'll discuss a little bit. Now this Johnson noise we explained, and we come to say so-called short noise, for example. Okay, so what is that actually, short noise? So this is actually the quantization of charge carried by electrons. You know that one electron hole, one electron generation, let us not whole, we don't need to consider whole, let us consider the photodetector or detection system is such that only electrons you are counting. So that actually is a quantized, you know, that's one photon comes and then you get one electron pulse, and that quantization of charge when it is just carried in the circuit and contributes small amount of noise, that is called a short noise. So noise means they will not be, as I said, that this electron charge, when it is generating, that generation, it is not one-to-one corresponds to your incoming uh, timing point of view. I mean to say timing point of view, not exactly when photon comes and immediately it will be there. On the top of it, your photon comes irregularly. It can come in a different time interval, and then that also will give you one spike, and then another interval not regularly coming, another type things, another spike is coming. So that spike, only quantization, you have to consider every electron, how much it is contributing. One electron to one photon to one electron, that generation you are considering. Okay, so in that case, we will be facing a certain kind of noise called short noise. That we have some kind of derivation to explain that. So it is actually, you see, it is basically called as a quantum noise, because it is quantization coming from the quantization of charge. Because one electron is generated. That's in between, another electron will come in another time instant, another electron. So in between, there is no the half electron or two electrons, everything is coming, that type of things are not there. So it is kind of quantization effect is there. And the short noise level corresponding to Poissonian photoelectron statistics is the fundamental detection limit. So that is called actually fundamental. So because electron, just quantization of electron, that is fundamental, so it is fundamental limit, we will call that. So it is actually quantum limit, and so that is why sometimes it is called also quantum noise. Okay, so now how you consider that, suppose one particular electron generates and you get a current. Okay, for any given electron, we just explain at t equal to Tn, some time instant, you will get a spike of current, right? Int, delta function it is, t equal to Tn, you will be getting 1. And E, this is such that it is basically charge, and this is per second dimension. It should be, unit should be per second. The delta function equal to Tn, it will be 1 per second. You have to consider, because you have to integrate delta function over t, then only you get 1. It's a number you get. So that's why you can consider this a per second. So this is actually a dimension of current, basically. Okay, coulomb per second, that is a current. So the total current over time is the sum of all Int. So you will be getting whatever small time instant it is coming photon by photon, you have to just consider total current, means you have to add all these events. Now you just concentrate on this only one event and try to see this event. It can happen maybe from 0 to t time interval you are considering. You are just, this event may not happen or may happen also in that time, but your time interval is 0 to t. And within that time interval, this delta function, whatever happening, if you try to just decompose into Fourier components, your time interval is this one t1, t 0 to t. Okay, you decompose, then normally you know this decomposition, this is standard decomposition things. You can get a cosine function of every t minus tn, because if repeatedly coming, that is how you can just expand. So so once we see this thing, then we can easily identify that whatever the mean square current, basically mean square current fluctuation for mth mode, mth normal mode. So you see, this is, this is the t interval. So if you just see m by t, that is something like that. You are just discretizing your time, discretizing your overall time in m. That is how your Fourier transform, you just do that, no? Discrete Fourier transform type thing. So the mean square fluctuation current for a given normal mode, just certain mode if you are just considering. So you have to have, this one is a constant for as long as time is constant. So this is the average square. plus multiplied by this also square average you have to consider. So this is standard, you can think. So this is the mean square current fluctuation. Okay. Now, if you just little bit here, you need to little bit visualize. You see, since the phases Tn can be anywhere from 0 to t, that phases means that's occurrence. This Tn can happen in between 0 to capital T somewhere. We average the cosine square term over all possible values, which has a value of 1/2. That means we can consider that this Tn can happen at t equal to 0. It can happen also t equal to capital T. It can happen also in between anywhere. So on an average, you can consider that is actually t by 2. Occurrence on an average, this thing is happening 1 by 2. So thus far a given fluctuating component with frequency m can be written this one. This means what we are doing then, this is actually 4 e square by t square, right? So 4 e square by t square, and then if you are just considering that it is actually instead of t, this occurrence is happening just halfway timing. So that instead of 4, we are writing just 2 e square. 2 e square by t square. That is what we just we can write down. Now, little bit of modification here. To derive the total RMS hot noise current, we simply sum over all frequencies and electrons. So all the frequencies you have to add what is happening for every frequencies, and it is evident that, you see, what is this? Suppose you have a average current is small I average, right? And then you are just dividing by E. That means normally current you divide by E means you get a number of electrons per second. And then if you multiply the time t, then what you get? That is the number of electrons emitted for a time interval from 0 to t. In the photodetector, this many electrons will be emitted. Number, I'm just finding the number. And the relation between the index into the normal modes of frequency, you see f equal to m. So if you see in the Fourier transform, it is m by that Fourier transform. If you see the frequency, every frequency, all the frequencies coming m by t. So that frequency we are writing f equal to m by t, right? So if we just try to say frequency band delta f, then you can write delta f equal to delta m by t. That is how you can get. Now you see, I am just writing down this expression. This is 2 e square by t square. Now what I am writing, this instead of 2e and m by t, and this expression, this is the number, total number, all the number we are just considering, all the electron numbers. Using this one and equation 336 and fact that f equal to m by t, right? Then this one will become like 2e times delta f and average current coming here, I tau te. Okay, this is the number, because we have to multiply all the things. So we have to multiply, this is for a single electron, and all the electrons coming, then you have to multiply this one by this one. So total current, this is m, and here I have not used subscript m because I am just summing over all the electrons. So I have to multiply this one. Once you multiply this t square, t will go, t will go, and 1e will go. That means 2e. And then 1 over t is there. 1 over t is there. 1 over t is just approximate this frequency, delta f, right? So whatever the frequency band you are considering, for that frequency band, you are just considering how much noise current is there, mean square current is there. So that is clear, no? So this equation, and this equation together gives you this thing. Now, if you just try to see from this, what would be the noise as a function of frequency? So noise as a function of frequency, you see, this is your current, and you know I square R, I square RL is the power. This is the mean square, and just you have to multiply RL, load resistance. So that is what we have just multiplied load resistance. Delta I square RL, that is our noise expression we have discussed earlier, right? So this is coming like this expression. Okay. So what is happening then? This is your power, and if you just try to see whatever will be the because if you go back to the your that photo detection circuit, that I think we go back there. Yeah. So this is your RL is there, and here ultimately you are measuring your voltage. Okay. So from the power, if you just try to see the voltage expression, what you will get? Power is equal to V square by RL, right? So we can write down from that, if this is your power, that means V square by RL is the power, right? So V square equal to, you have to multiply RL here. So this one equal to V square by RL. So RL if you multiply, then you are getting V square. V square is equal to 2E RL square and average current I. And now, if because you have an amplifier also afterwards, if that amplifier giving a gain of this one, so this gain over a particular band of frequency, if you integrate, that will be giving you your this quantum of current fluctuations, so whatever you are getting. And along with that, you just add one more term that is actually corresponding to your Johnson, flicker, everything together, you can write down that one. So that noise plus, because those noise at higher frequency, you know, that is actually reducing. But in addition to that, you are getting this one. So if you see for a particular band of frequency, if you it's anything you gain, you can get some constant value here, right? It's not frequency dependent. You are just integrating over this thing, and then just constant plus this one, average current, RL square, and 2E. So you see here this electronic charge, actually, particularly electronic charge here, that is contributing to your additional noise. So that is why we sometimes call the quantum noise. And in another term, this is normally well known as a short noise. So which is not frequency dependent, which is really not frequency dependent. But of course, it depends on, this noise depends on how much load resistance you are using. That is very important. Load resistance lower means you can actually reduce this V square smaller. And your current is lower means your noise is lower, mean current. That means your intensity dropping. That means your noise will be dropping. This short noise will be dropping. And load resistance, as I said, that is dropping. But since they cannot be completely zero to measure anything, so that is actually ultimately limited by the E value here. Okay. So just you have to point it out here that the short noise is frequency independent and temperature independent. So it is a frequency independent as well as temperature. No temperature is there. Okay. So you can reduce your temperature to reduce your Johnson noise. But this thing, short noise, this is actually no way you can reduce. So that's actually limit, fundamental thing. You cannot avoid. That will be there. The short noise will be there, quantum limit. Okay. So that is how, whenever you are getting this thing, I go back to that one, that expression again. So I should have put one figure there. So here, when AF is increasing, your Johnson noise is reducing, but this quantum noise, so-called short noise, is limited here. So it is saturating. This is actually short noise level flattened. But after that, you see, it shows that it is actually further reducing. This is experimental result. Okay. Again reducing. So that reduction is what can anyone explain why that is happening? So our understanding Johnson noise, Flicker noise 1 by f, 1 over f. So that is actually, as you increase your frequency, that should be down. That is you can actually forget. But this thing which is white noise, so-called frequency independent temperature independent, that will be there. But our experimental result shows that this is reducing. What is the reason? Can anyone guess? I will ask to Animesh. Animesh,
Yes, yes.
can you tell why that is happening?
Sir, because of increasing frequency, but actual reason I cannot.
Increasing frequency, that is visible, but then your noise level is reduced. Is that really that noise is completely going to zero at higher frequency? But our theory says that the short noise is a white noise, frequency independent. That
Yes,
means
sir.
for a higher frequency it should be there. But this experimental result is showing something like that. What is the
Sir, is
reason?
it because the photodiode current starts to like saturate after a point, and like the noise would also like there wouldn't be any more electron hole pair creations because of the
High
saturation.
frequency.
Yeah, at higher frequency. Like I mean,
So that
the photodiode is frequency selective, right?
yeah, but I think photodiode, this is the frequency. We are just seeing that at this particular frequency there is no noise. Our noise we are decomposing. We should not
Oh,
forget what is that.
that's
Because of
because
that
the
time.
sampling dead time. Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
that is actually the bandwidth of the photodetector.
correct. Yeah.
So we mentioned that the photodetector normally for certain after beyond certain frequency the photodetector cannot resolve. It cannot respond, right? So that is actually the so-called what you call that bandwidth limitation or date time. Perhaps you can just mention that is a kind of date time. So 1 over tau d, that is your frequency. Beyond that, your detector will not be responding. It will not detect. It cannot detect the frequency. If you are modulating more than that frequency, it will not be able to show you, give you 1010 or high low you cannot get. Also suppose laser light is, you are modulating very fast, okay, one pulse coming and then another pulse is coming in between. If you are not keeping enough time, so it will not be able to resolve. So that is what that type of noise, that type of disturbance for that frequencies, it will not be there. Okay, it will not be able to detect. But you can actually get nowadays, that's a photo detector. Even laboratory level people demonstrated up to 100 gigahertz bandwidth. Very fast photo detectors are available nowadays. 100 gigahertz, particularly frequently we use for our communication system, it is 60 gigahertz. Even in silicon also nowadays, in with CMOS technology, people demonstrated up to 60 gigahertz bandwidth, very fast. So, but if you see that this classical noise, that is actually in this Johnson noise, all those type of, this is actually some 100 up to 100 megahertz or something like that. This things. Sometimes it is typically some of the photo detector, we know that it is up to 10 to 15 megahertz. Beyond that, whatever noise will be there, that is short noise. So any communication, whatever we do communications for high speed communication, for optical on off or any other high speed communication which is actually beyond gigahertz, 1 gigahertz, 10 gigahertz, 40 gigahertz. So there this Johnson noise and classical noise, they are not so important, but important is the short noise. So how much power is there, that depending on that short noise, how to eliminate that thing we can discuss. So, but if you just have some fast photo detector, okay, where this another experimental results it's given in the textbook also, this Fox textbook I have just copied from here. So you see here it is shown that as a function of frequency, same thing, you are measuring. By the way, how you are measuring? Again, you just consider a certain amount of light, you make incident, and then you see what is the time variation, delta I, and then delta I square, and then power, and Fourier transform. That is how you're supposed to get, right? So in that case, you see about 15 megahertz, up to 15 megahertz. So initially is 1 by f, and Johnson noise, etc. is there, and then you are reaching to a limit. And since your photo detector can be very fast, here it is shown beyond certain limit, it could be just constant. It can be shown. It is shown up to 25 megahertz only, but beyond that also it can be flat if it is a fast photo detector. Now this is a dBm. You know what is dBm, right? How to calculate dBm? Have you seen a dBm?
20 log
Power log of
20 then log,
So
times log of the power.
20 times log of the power.
Okay.
Suppose so power normally in watt or milliwatt, right?
Yes, sir.
But here it is shown noise power as a dBm. What does it mean? How to get
dB,
dBm?
I know. dBm, I don't know.
Anyone? Gantashala?
Yes, sir.
You know what is dBm?
I think it's 10 log power.
Shashank?
I don't know.
That means suppose 1 watt. I ask you to convert into dBm. How much dBm will be there?
Some log
10 to the
scale.
power 3, sir.
Say one by one. Who is Shashank? You are saying, right? Tell me. I am asking you. This is a noise power in dB unit is given. Suppose I have a power of say 100 microwatt. 100 microwatt. Microwatt is the power. So in dBm scale, how much it will be?
Is dBm log of 10 log of the milliwatt power?
Who said that?
Shashank.
Shashank.
Yes, sir.
Is that
It's
correct?
10 times. I mean, I'm just guessing because I know dB, I don't know dBm.
Yeah. dB is just a power ratio, right?
Yeah.
So dBm, that's what I thought that you might not be knowing, many of you. That's why I just pause on it. Anjana, you know?
Sir, I have heard of it, but I don't actually remember.
Sharad?
10 log of that power, I think. 10 log of that power.
Just power, yeah?
The 10 log of 10 log
10 log of?
the power.
If it is a microwatt, suppose it is 100 microwatt. What would be the dBm?
100 microwatt means,
I'm just giving you 100 microwatt. What would be dBm?
yes, sir.
Sir, is it 10 log of the power by 1 milliwatt? As in like
Power
the ratio?
Power by 1 milliwatt.
Yeah.
you might be googling maybe.
No, I mean that's what I said before. As in like you mentioned
Yeah,
the
you said-
ratio.
No, suppose if it is 1 microwatt and divided by 1 milliwatt, what does it mean? That will be 1 microwatt by 1 milliwatt. It's not correct, right?
Yes.
100 microwatt by 1 milliwatt, no meaning, right?
No, as in like the ratio will, I mean, when you take dB, it should be like a dimensionless quantity, right? So we have to give like a,
Actually, yeah. So I think this is frequent whenever you are using for any photonics device characterization, everything. This dBm is frequently used. Even if you see, sometimes if you want to buy a laser or amplifier, right? So you can get that, okay, if you just give 1 dBm here, then there will be, you will be getting, suppose you have a power of 1 dBm in the input, then you are getting maybe some 30 dBm at the output. Okay, so that is actually it's a smaller unit of power. You have to convert the power into milliwatt. It can be watt, it can be microwatt, it can be picowatt, it can be anything, any dimension, any scale is there, but you convert that into milliwatt. Okay, that is what you said, that you normalize to 1 milliwatt. And then you take log and 10 multiplication. That is actually dBm. If it is 1 watt means in terms of milliwatt, it is 10 to the power 3. So if you take log of 10 to the power 3 means 3, right? Log of 10 to the power 3 means 3 times 10, so 30 dBm. So 1 watt means 30 dBm. Is that clear? 1 watt means 1000 milliwatt. 1000 milliwatt means 10 to the power 3. Take log. What do you get? 3. Are you following? Sarad?
Sir, I get it.
You got it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you have to convert power into milliwatt, then whatever you get dBm. So here also, whatever delta square RL you are getting, that is your electrical power you are getting, right? So that electrical power, you are just converting into milliwatt. And then you are showing in dBm. For example, you are having a here, say minus 90 dBm. Minus 90 dBm means you can imagine 10 to the power minus 9. If it is 10 to the power minus 9, then you take log, you will be getting minus 9. And then multiply 10, then minus 90 dBm. So 10 to the power 9 means milliwatt, means 10 to the power minus 9 milliwatt. So minus 90 dBm means 10 to the power minus 9 milliwatt. Is that correct? Similarly, any value you can get. So such a low value you are measuring. That is you have to keep in mind. Okay. So this is coming like this, and then you can get this is flat. That is actually short noise. Here it is just a results given for lambda equal to 1064. That's the NDA laser, and R is 0.7 ampere per watt. That is R is what you know. That is responsivity. So if responsivity is 0.7, what would be the efficiency, quantum efficiency? Can you calculate? How to calculate, you know? Are you going through the previous class already? So previous class we have just shown now how is the relationship between efficiency, quantum efficiency, and responsivity. So from here you can get a quantum efficiency, and then next thing is that this part, another one. So this is short noise, this is flat, it is shown dBm scale, and another thing is that your noise power you are showing as a input optical power. This is a noise power, whatever you are getting, that is an electrical domain, whatever you are getting, that one, and your optical power here. You are just giving to the photo detector optical power, and this is your electrical noise, normally electronic circuit noise, whatever this thing. But here this noise power means short noise. This noise power, what we are considering, that is a short noise. That short noise, if you are trying to measure, right? Suppose you are measuring short noise, because here it is shown that you are measuring short noise. You are getting noise at 50 megahertz. 50 megahertz means far away, right? Here, this is 25 megahertz and 50 megahertz. At 50 megahertz frequency, you don't have any classical noise. Only short noise is there. And at that frequency, you take a window of 3 megahertz. Then whatever power is there, just integrate. That is actually your noise power you are finding. And that noise power you are calculating as a power of optical power coming to your photodetector. Then you see that is actually going linear. Okay, so is it expected? Is this expected, Nila bhai Barun? Are you there? So this noise power is increasing as a function of optical power. Do you expect that?
Yeah, I think so, sir. Like,
Uh,
more power is incident, then there might be.
You see, this optical power, as you increase, your mean current in the photodetector, average current, will be proportional. No? That is what we have shown earlier. Whenever we have shown the relationship between efficiency here. No? So if you see here, then go back there. Yeah. So you see, you increase your optical power. That will be actually increasing your current, right? This is average current you will be getting. This average current plus fluctuations. So this average current depends on your power. If you are increasing your power, then your average current will go up, and there you will be seeing the noise. And again, you are increasing the power, this average current will be increasing, and there you will see the noise. So every power level, you try to see this delta I, this fluctuation, mean square, multiply RL, then that is your noise power. Electrically, whatever you are measuring. So if you are increasing I, then this thing will be increasing, and correspondingly your delta I may not be same. As you increase your P, this delta I, whatever variation you are getting here for higher current, this delta I variation may be different. Okay, so if that is the case, so you can get as a function of power, your delta I can be same, can be different also, but you see this noise power here is increasing because this is a short noise, right? Short noise expression, if you see here, what is the short noise expression? It is proportional to average current. So this delta F equal to 3 megahertz you are using, RL is given, 2E is given. So that means your power level is increased. You're supposed to get a linear one. Okay. So linear one is supposed to get, and experimentally you are getting. And when power is not there at all, when power is not there, zero power, there still you are getting some kind of power also. That is actually electronics, whatever electronics connected, that itself giving you some power, that is actually ending up at 10 picowatt. Okay, so these are the things. And then next thing is that how you can eliminate this classical noise, basically, because this fundamental noise, this short noise elimination is very difficult. It's a quantum limit. So quantum fluctuations, it is a fundamental limit, and you have to deal with it certain way, but it's not so easy to eliminate that. But classical noise, I think there are two methods explained here. You see, you have a laser source. It can be coming to your photodetector. What you do, you tap a bit. Okay, you tap a bit, and then you detect it, and then whatever the fluctuations are there, that fluctuation will be observed here detector, and you see the current, and that current you take it to power supply and then give a negative feedback. Some current is increasing means that give negative feedback, so that current can be reduced, so laser power can be stabilized. So that means whenever the intensity is coming, at least your noise level will be reducing. Classical noise will be reducing, but that electron pulsing, that noise cannot be reduced. Actually, classical noise, low frequency noises, everything can be reduced by this method. That is called noise eater scheme for stabilizing the power output of a laser. The laser power is monitored by sending a portion of the output. Maybe one person can be sufficient sometimes. Detector to form the beam splitter. The detector from a beam splitter, sorry. The detected signal is then used to control the power supply to the laser in a negative feedback loop. So that is how electronically you can do that. And another method is that you use a beam splitter, and then 50% goes here and 50% comes here. Then what happens, this 50%, whatever classical noise is there, it will be detected by this one, and another 50% it will be detected here. And then when you subtract, electronically you can subtract these two current. Then the noise portion can be actually cancelled. If it is I1 and I2 is same, if it is 50-50 going, then ultimately you should get 0. That means that time you are getting electronics noise only. But if you somehow, the one path, you just a little bit attenuate, then I1 minus I2 is non-zero. In that case, you can get a current, you can amplify that differential current. But the classical noise portion, that can be actually subtracted. Because classical noise will be there along with I1, and classical noise will be there along with I2, and that will be subtracted. Okay, but this short noise, that is actually will not be subtracted, because that is actually they will be actually different time. Here it will not be correlated. There will be just quantum wise it will be coming, that will be there always. Okay, so I can stop here up to this point, and later on I will just this is your all the limitations of your photo detectors and single photon detection. And even if your sub-Poissonian light is there, if your detector is not highly efficient enough, so you will not be able to detect things. And these days, I think efficiency, maximum efficiency, I think 95% available for visible region, but for communication wavelength region, etc. So it's very difficult to get. Only SNSPD we can get nowadays available. One SNSPD means single superconducting nanowire single photon detector, and there actually efficiency can go beyond 80%, but date time, etc. is in the range of 1 microsecond. Those are being used. And before going into that single photon thing, detection, etc., so we need to also show that how basically, even if it is sub-Poissonian light is there, because of the limitation of your photo detector, it will give you Poissonian output. That is what we explained. Okay, but if you have a condition that you could generate sub-Poissonian, and you want to generate also sub-Poissonian output, because that is important, that output actually you can actually reproduce your quantum state of a photon. In that case, your efficiency should be very high enough. Okay, that information you should keep in mind. So that is how different type of, I think I will send you a paper published in Nature, actually compare that different type of photo detectors, technology basically, and corresponding the efficiency. There are a lot of background physics is there. I will not go into that detail, but list of photo detectors will be there, and you can find what is the up-to-date efficiency you can get. So 85%, 90% is somewhat people are reporting commercially is available also nowadays. So now in the next class I will be discussing how to get a source, sub-Poissonian source. So one condition is you have to have your sub-Poissonian source, and then another condition is you should have a very high efficiency. This two condition is required for actually working with a quantum photonic devices and circuits. So nowadays efficiency is available, high efficiency photo detectors are available, and there are certain sources are available also in bulk system. Some sub-Poissonian source are there. I will be discussing how that can be generated, and some actually you can generate by photonic circuit. That I will be discussing. Some non-linear optic application, etc. that I will be discussing. So now onwards I will be just moving into your source part. Then once the source part is there, then we can go to your device application, different type of measurement system and interference, quantum interference. That's it. So this is today's 27th lecture. So I think you should keep in mind that at least I have to go up to 45 lectures. I think whole December, and it will be spill over to January probably. And so you should be prepared for that. And Arnav Ramon, can you also try to make a assignment for this photo detector? You know, all these technical things that you need dimensions, everything will be corrected if you give some assignments. So many of them, they don't know how to convert maybe milliwatt to power to dBm, all those type of things. So some fundamentals related question can you set and show me, then you can circulate so they can do that. Okay, so
Okay.
stop here. Yeah, fine.